Ladies and gentlemen, our next keynote speaker is a manager of cybersecurity governance, risk, and compliance at Ma'aden. He has a total years of experience of 9 years in cybersecurity and in management, as well as in cybersecurity diverse domains from operational and architectural to governance and compliance. He'll be speaking to us about the strategic cyber GRC in digitalization. Please welcome Aiman Alghamdi, Cybersecurity GRC Manager at Ma'aden.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Okay, so as explained before, I'm Aiman Alghamdi, working with Ma'aden as a cybersecurity GRC manager. I have been experienced in different domains in there. I worked as a SOC for an incident response, as well I worked with infrastructure security from endpoint to vulnerability management. As well, I had some experience in architecture, cybersecurity architecture, where to review those architecture-related topics and do the risk assessment and provide the best practices and recommendation. Lastly, I shifted to the GRC since I have the foundation of the cybersecurity from technical perspective, operational perspective, incident response, and attack chain, and all of that knowledge. We moved to GRC, compliance, governance, compliance, risk, from documentation, building a strategy, to delivering those documentation to the level of the baseline guidelines. So moving to the before establishing, let's talk about the risk. What is the risk? So we are not talking about a technical risk or cyber risk. We are not talking about IT risk. We are looking into the risk from business perspective. The risk is a business problem. Why it's a business problem? Because there is a demand, the increasing demand for the expansion of the business that will require the automation and technology adoption to increase and accelerate the process of investment, for example. So it is generated or started from the business side, requesting those demands, and that demand and the adoption of the new technology and the automation will create changes in the environment. Hence, that will create a kind of a gaps or possible risk in there. The involvement of the cybersecurity will be here to define those gaps and understand where is the possible risk in there, and to prepare for start with the assessment, then prepare for the recommendation and risk mitigation for that. So moving to the next slides, how to have that program, cybersecurity program, the successful cybersecurity program to drive the company towards a secure state. The first thing we need to look at here is the business alignment. Thinking of that, how can we ensure that there is an alignment? We need to understand the culture of the company, the culture of the employee. So how we are treating the matters, for example, the cases happening there, what culture we have, how do we communicate, what value we have as a corporate, for example. Understanding the culture will allow us understand what needs to be done in order to drive the program to the succession. The next thing we need to look at for the asset value. That will be tangible and intangible assets. What's the criticality or the class of the asset that we need to protect? Could be an information, could be a program, could be a hardware, could be as an asset, a material, could be material. When you're investing in those, for example, a mining company where I come from, so the most asset that we care about is the material in there, the commodity itself, as well the information generated from that mining activities. The next thing we need to look at the risk tolerance. So to which level the company is accepting the risk in there. We need to look into this window of the risk and understand to which level we can take the risk, accept the consequences and the risk, and build the requirement, the enablement, the support to that level. Not exceeding it and make things complex, not going below it and leave a gap for the risk or for the breaches, for example. As well, the legal obligation, we need to understand the company status from legal perspective. What fine charges can be, what liability we can be if we, for example, not compliant to a certain regulation. If we are working globally, for example. So from legal perspective, we need to understand the consequences, the limitation, and the liability in order to be prepared and avoid those. As well, the last one is the market condition. So differentiating from each sector to sector. For example, we have National Cybersecurity Authority, that's overall for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But if we see, for example, the banking sector, they have SAMA, for example. There is a regulatory requirement in addition to that market. So we need to understand what regulatory in there, what's requirements, and build our program in compliance with them. The strategy and objectives. So we need to build those strategy, and everyone know how to start building strategy, starting with understanding the current state. Where are we? Understand what capability we have, what resources we have, what challenges we have in there. After having those information, we can set our objective or the goal we are aiming to. So having the goal, which should be achievable. So having those goals, and we know now our capabilities. We are ready to put our plan step by step in order to reach that objectives or achieve the objectives in them. One important element here or condition. When building the strategy, we need to look at the corporate level strategy and objectives. So from the first step, if we are not aligning with the corporate strategy, we will not get the management buy-in. If we are moving in that direction and the corporate moving in this direction, for example, there will be lots of conflicts, lots of, it's first step to lead to the failure of the program. So alignment between the department's objectives, strategy, and the corporate strategy. Let's talk a little bit about the business model. So it's commonly adopted when we talk about the three elements of the business model here, starting with the people, technology, and process. The first one, looking into the capabilities, the skill set we have from people perspective, the resources. The technology, we are talking about the tools that we will use, the capabilities from tool perspective, from program or solution. As well, when we talk about the process, the steps that we will need or we will take in order to reach a target. People and technology will drive us to innovation, creation, creativity. When we talk about people and process, this is the creation of the culture or the culture change. People know what to do and how to do things. When we talk about technology and process, here is the saving money. We have the technology and we have identified process in how to, which is the automation. So that will save time, that will save money or will save cost, reduce the cost. And aligning all of them together and considering them when adopting any technology, that will lead us to a successful delivery of a project or a program. So thinking about having the dynamic cybersecurity program, we need to understand the status as explained before and build our program based on the business need as well adopting the new technology. Technology is growing there. There is evolution of the technology. We need to see what's the trending in the market and how can we use those technology in compliance with the cybersecurity requirements and apply it, adopt it, instead of being a legacy, for example, requirements that will not fit with the business needs. Few considerations, we will go through them, related to having cybersecurity successful program. We need to have those measurements in order to do the assessment of the cybersecurity program and have the result of those, tracking them periodically to understand are we moving in the right direction or we are drifting from the objectives or the targets. This is an example, for example, when we look into the compliance. The compliance could be the compliance assessment, maturity assessment, and any other type of the compliance to the policies, set of requirement, controls, and policies, and see where are we from that level to comply to them. And whenever we find a gap, we apply the most suitable actions in order to have the corrected corrective action. Another another type of the measurement, for example, let's see here the awareness. It could be the easy way to have the awareness, for example, testing the employee adoption or employee culture from email, phishing email perspective, for example. You have the failure rates and keep tracking it month by month to understand are we going in the right direction, if we are decreasing the phishing rate or failure rate of the phishing emails, or it's moving up, so we need to adjust our awareness program in order to close those identified gaps through the email phishing. The other one, when we talk about the technical and operational, so how many incidents were closed, for example, in a specific time. When we have those measurements, we need to think about the SMART objectives: specific and timely, specific, measurable, achievable, timely, and relative. So thinking about that, having how many incidents will be closed through a specific time, how many, for example, port requests or a request, cybersecurity requests with the operation in a specific time that was approved or rejected, to understand if they already adopting or taking in the cybersecurity requirement or not. Moving to the next slide, there is few stakeholders, key stakeholders we need to consider while building the program, as well while delivering a project, cybersecurity project or any project, and that could be with the digitalization, for example, when we talk about the IT and innovation. So we are not working in a silo here. We need to consider who is involved and onboard them to our initiative and understand what their requirement, what their standards, what they need from us, and what we need from them. For example, if we are talking about the information technology or ICT, for example, those are considered as a partner with the cybersecurity. They are the enabler, as the cybersecurity should be the enabler here. So understand what they have, framework to be adopted, understand their requirement from IT perspective, as well let them in with your program to understand what you are targeting, what you are trying to mitigate from risk perspective, and what you are going through the implementation. As well the innovation and digitalization, what data value they are looking for, what they are providing, what do we need from them. When we talk about the enterprise risk management, the enterprise risk management, one of the partners with the cybersecurity targeting the risk mitigation in there. They do the risk assessment. Whenever there's a gap identified in there, and that expand to be a critical and impacting the enterprise level, we communicate with the enterprise risk management in order to have the risk register in there and keep tracking it in enterprise level. As well, for the internal audit, we are the source. As a cybersecurity, for example, we are the source that the internal audit is working based on. So That will involve the enterprise architecture, enterprise governance and compliance, from legal perspective, from fines, from consequences if there is a breach or there is a violation to a contract that impacting the legal, and if there is a leakage, for example, of confidential information. As well, that will involve the data management office and steering committee. It's very important to have the steering committee involving the cybersecurity, starting with the cybersecurity steering committee, going through other committees. For example, when we talk about an internal audit or the audit committee, it's a good to have the cybersecurity there. Moving to other considerations that we need to focus on, the right communication and education. When you talk about the awareness, so having the top management buy-in will depend in big part on the awareness. When they understand the criticality of the cybersecurity, they will empower their employee to take the good action, the most secure action in that, and vice versa. If they are not, if you did not gain the buy-in from the top management, that might lead to another consequences, which is not following the best practices from cybersecurity perspective, and you lose the protection. From communication perspective, effective communication is essential part. That's not only with the cybersecurity, it is effective part to have a delivery, a successful delivery of a project, of a program, or initiatives. So if there is an effective communication, we will understand the requirement from the requester, for example, or the project leaders in there, and hence we provide the required support to them. If we don't have that right communication, we will misunderstand their requirements, and we might provide a wrong perspective of it, and there will be bad consequences. The project will not be delivered on time, for example. The requirement will not meet the minimum level of the requirement in that. So, and that will lead to the interruption of the business or the delay in the project. So when we look at it from compliance and security and productivity's function, the compliance always looking to comply with the internal and external regulations, while the security targeting to mitigate the risk or risk reduction. The productivity always looking to increase the value. We need to look into that point where all of them are satisfied. Meanwhile, we are keeping the satisfaction level or satisfactory level of delivering each requirement for each of those. If we look from, for example, the compliance and productivity perspective, while ignoring or neglecting the security level, we might have a breach in there from technological perspective. As well, if we take in it from security and compliance, we will lose the business. Always keep the compliance, and as well implement the most sophisticated security controls. You will lose the productivity, which is the objective of the corporate. When we talk about, for example, productivity and security, but not giving enough care for the compliance, for example, we will lose the penalties from there. We will lose, it could be charges, could be fines on the company whenever there's a breach. So we are looking into those three and see where's the interconnection between all of them, be compliant to the acceptable level while applying the sufficient level of the control without making challenges on the workflow, for example, or processes, while having the expected and sufficient level of productivity and data or value generation. That's all from my side. Thank you so much for listening and appreciate your being here.